Well, welcome to the 2023 Nova Conference. We love these opportunities to connect and share, and we're really thrilled that you're joining us. I'm Susan Prescott, Director of the Nova Network and Professor of Planetary Health at the University of Western Australia, and it's my pleasure to be chairing the conference. And I'd like to start with our customary acknowledgement that celebrates the spirit of people, places and planet. We come from many places, many stories and many traditions. So we acknowledge and celebrate all wisdom, past, present and emerging, and the spirit of the earth and of community that sustains us all with great gratitude, love and respect. So thank you. This meeting would not be possible without the vision and support of the Nova Institute. So I would like to invite Brian Berman, President of Nova, to add a few words of welcome. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Susan, and welcome all of you to our 2023 Nova Annual Conference. First off, I just want to say a big thank you to you, Susan, for organizing this two-day virtual event and for the amazing artwork and video that you just put forward there. Very, very creative. I'm always amazed how you're able to weave such a rich tapestry out of the impactful and the important work people and organizations are doing all over the world. The Nova Institute's a heart-centered think tank that takes action for the good of people, places, and the planet. And our mission is to catalyze new ideas in health, explore the complex factors that influence health, and promote the well-being of individuals, communities, and the planet. And one way we achieve our mission is through forums like this one, where we come together as a community, discuss important and timely issues, share research ideas and inspirations, and discover solutions that move us all forward. My wife Sue and I recently went to a small jazz concert, paid tribute to Duke Ellington, the famous composer and band leader from the late 1920s who used art not only to express his creativity, but also to build community and promote peace, equality, and love. And it inspired me to think about what we're doing here at this point in time. And during segregation in the United States, Duke Ellington frequently played in venues called black and tan clubs, where the black and white musicians and patrons would mingle together, something they were forbidden to do in most places. In these spaces, artists and music lovers were able to riff off of each other's music, collaborating and connecting deeply, despite the divisiveness and the hate raging around them. And their music was truly transformative. And finding joy during such difficult times while defying racist laws and attitudes was both an act of resistance and also of love. And today, we're also living in incredibly challenging times with turmoil and divisiveness all around us, from wars to ongoing inequities and health disparities, mental health crisis, climate chaos, and a pandemic that we're still recovering from. So to me, with this year's gathering and its diverse yet intertwining themes, we are the musicians that are using our work and sharing our ideas in order to find hope, new solutions despite these challenges, using positive thinking to make an enormous collective impact. And for the next 2 days, our intention is to create a space that feels alive, organic, yet grounded, full of connections with old friends and new faces, maybe a little like an old speakeasy. And as we bring our amazing speakers on stage and engage in real-time discussion, as well as connecting through online integration hub, I hope, actually I know, we can make some beautiful music together. So thanks for being here. Let's get tuned up and tuned in. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I really love that. So next, to help bring us to co-create this special space for the conference, I would like to invite Rick Scott to guide us through a mindful moment of connection. Thank you, Rick.
So let's begin by finding a comfortable position and take a few relaxing breaths to calm your body and mind. And if you would like to, gently close your eyes or allow your gaze to soften. Now bring your awareness to the area around your heart and feel a sense of love and gratitude for the many things that nourish you in life, the people who love you, your health, clean water, fresh air, nutritious food, our Mother Earth. Feel the vitality, energy, and life all around you and within you. And for the next several moments, as we sit in silence, immerse yourself in these feelings of love and gratitude. And let these feelings grow, filling you and expanding all around you until they encompass the entire earth. And when you're ready, return your attention to this space. Gently open your eyes, feeling relaxed and refreshed.
Well, thank you so much, Rick, for bringing us into that place of connection with ourselves, with others, and everything. So now just to overview our schedule, all of our sessions are a series of short talks by panelists, generally for around 5 minutes each, followed by open discussion with everybody. Because the panel is large, we aim to have a potential interim discussion about halfway, time permitting, if there's any pressing questions. I'm going to kick off the panel now with my 5-minute introduction to frame the conference. Thank you very much. We're so pleased that you're joining this gathering as we explore new ideas and new ways of connecting existing knowledge. This conference is themed The Seeds of Change, Inspiring a Better Future, because we seek to invest our passion in forward thinking, extending horizons, and in the importance of imagining something new in order to start living it. We're considering health and well-being in the broadest sense, a holistic perspective of ecological interdependence that connects the health and vitality of individuals, communities, and the Earth's natural systems. It also encompasses the human-made, social, political, and economic ecosystems that promote attitudes, values, and behaviours of individuals and whole societies for equitable, mutual flourishing and fulfilment, and overcome factors that undermine it. Many great things take root from small beginnings, especially when nourished. This includes the seemingly small, local and even personal changes, which can ultimately contribute to the momentum of growth for larger systems change. So we seek to plant seeds of positive change in a landscape of stories that is currently overwhelmed with negative narratives, feeding the sense of crisis. We can see the devastating effects of despair and frustration, especially in our youth. Using fear, anger, or guilt to motivate change only serves to polarize, alienate, and disenfranchise people. These are not the seeds to plant for our children. We need wiser stories that build rather than break our communities, stories that shift focus from all that is wrong in the world to more hopeful and engaging narratives that focus on what we can do about it together. This seeds both personal well-being through purpose and belonging and grows community cohesion for collective action. And in this increasingly divided world, it is increasingly important that we seed narratives that engage people across the board. And the best way we know how to do that involves going deeper to the core of our shared humanity. Marketing experts tell us what we know intuitively, that the most effective messages for engaging and motivating action are those that have an emotional meaning at a personal level, going literally to the heart of change. And that is what the research shows too, that it is not guilt or fear that motivate altruism, but love. love for our children, love for each other, love for our planet, as a universal driving force behind all the actions we are inviting people to take. And this crosses political ideologies and cultural groups. So this is the space that we need to reach into. Yes, we are influenced by societal narratives, but we are also co-creating them all the time. And we don't use that power enough constructively or with awareness. This invites the elements of imagination, creativity, inspiration, and fun. These are key to the sense of awe, hope, possibility, and belonging that we truly need to thrive and make a meaningful difference in the world. The energy and lightness of spirit in those moments when we feel the best and most alive. And we invite all of you to think about what makes you feel most alive, really alive. Ultimately, the solutions to our challenges on every level depend on cultivating deeper, kinder, meaningful relationships with ourselves, with others, and the natural world, for co-creating change with a more unitive awareness of connected consciousness. And this does require a greater focus on developing our inner resources and our inner strength for outer change, which we will focus on later in the meeting. In this session and those that follow, we will hear stories of change from many people. And these are not intended to cover every issue, but to introduce a range of interconnected themes, which we will explore more as the conference evolves. The goal is to invite us to go outside our usual sphere of practice to see new interconnections, ways of applying our work, and ways of contributing to a larger mosaic of solutions. It is important to push boundaries and stretch our limiting beliefs, because that is the only way that progress is ever made. By looking into this portal of possibility, we're actually creating it, opening it, and inviting it into reality. So let's dive in. To ground us and expand our awareness, I would like to invite Elder Puna Kalama Dawson to say a few words. She is an internationally honoured elder of the Hawaiian Islands. Puna travels in the footprints of her ancestors to strengthen the cultural bridges for world peace. Among her many leadership roles, she serves as the board chair for the Coherence Lab. And we want to thank our wonderful friends and collaborators, Prajna and Greg Horn at Coherence Lab, for bringing us this message. Thank you all.
Aloha, everyone. I'm very honored to introduce Puna Kalama Dawson as an integral elder, and Puna is deeply involved in supporting synchronized Indigenous ceremonies worldwide. These ceremonies, envisioned as creating a blanket of peace across the globe, are pivotal in catalyzing a worldwide movement for environmental and social justice. Through these sacred gatherings, there is a concerted effort to inspire collective action for the well-being of our planet and its diverse inhabitants, for now and for future generations. Welcome, Puna. Thank you so much for being here.
Mahalo for this opportunity to recognize the importance that we all hold coming to this earth, being a part of the celebration of life, acknowledging the values of who we are and how important what we do to ensure that the absolute best, sharing our gifts, is really our purpose. As a people of the earth, we're one people, all being gifted with the light that burns from the time of our conception. And with that light comes the gift of breath, the gift of gratitude, of appreciation. So our instruction begins from the first moment of our conception. And the understanding that this global reality is goodness. It reminds us and tells us of the responsibilities of the kuleana that we have as a people of the world. Everyone connected by the 8 oceans, we all breathe and share in nature's law. We're all part of this one world of reality, gifted to us by our ancestral histories in every culture, gifted with kuleana, with responsibility. And so when we can understand that what happens in Bolivia, what happens in Colombia, what happens in Australia, what happens throughout the world, that because of the connection we have as man who is kind, we can see and be and recognize pain, suffering, challenge, and turn that all around into hope, gratitude, and grace. It's so important that we can appreciate diversity and we can appreciate things that maybe we don't agree with, but to be able to listen and hear and experience only makes what we have that much better. Aloha is a nice way of expressing the idea of sharing. We need to share what we have, not just the joy, and we need to share the challenges. We say the word aloha, we say it, but we as man who is kind, we must live it. We must be a part of the reality of what is happening with our earth in relationship with not just the heavens and the earth, but more important with the people. And it begins with that understanding of aloha. And kindness begins with each one of us. Kuleana, responsibility to yourself, plays such an important part. When you can value yourself, it's being responsible. When you can understand that who you are, you have been put here to share your gifts, and you share that by caring for what has been put into your hands. The opportunities that you have, especially with challenge, must be shared. Caring for ourselves is paramount, most important. It is only when we care for ourselves, our ability to care for others comes from a place of abundance. So, when they say aloha begins with me, this is what they're really instructing us to understand, that we share from a place of abundance. We share with thought, with appreciation, with gratitude. And we share what we have, only giving the best, not the least. And it begins with you, our gifts that have been given to us, the earth, the waters, the resources that we have, caring for them, ensuring them for the future, begins 7 generations ago, put into the hands of those that came before us, now in our hands. We as a people of this earth, one people, in living with nature and natural law, our ability to raise and lift our environment in appreciation happens every moment of every day, every moment. And it is in the moment that we live that our opportunities are shown to us, for us to be here caring for our earth. One people, one breath, one reality, all sharing. Aloha. Mahalo.
Well, thank you. We are so deeply grateful to Puna and Prajna for this message and all the work that they're doing. So it is now my honour to introduce our headline keynote speaker in this session, Stewart Wallis, Executive Chair and co-founder of the Wellbeing Economy Alliance. He is a global advocate for a new economic system that supports human and ecological well-being. He was awarded his OBE for his services to Oxfam, and he has continued to make global contributions to social, economic, and environmental justice. Too many to mention without detracting from his time. So please refer to the profile for Stewart and all of our speakers on the event page. Welcome, Stewart.
Thank you so much, Susan. And gosh, this has been such a beautiful beginning to any gathering. So huge thank you to Brian, Susan, Rick, Puna, and Prajna. I'm incredible, just so moving. And it's wonderful to be with you. I'm going to bring you a message of hope and love. And share a bit about how much is already happening and why we can be excited and energized by that. But first, a little bit of gloom. The root cause of a lot of the polycrises that Brian was talking about is our extractive and exploitative economic system. The way I characterize the current economic system is by using 4 U's. It's unsustainable, it's hugely unfair, it's very unstable, and it's making so many people unhappy, people not feeling either valued or valuable. And if you put it simply, we're running faster and faster as humans, burning up our planet, destroying other species, causing massive social problems, and not even making ourselves any happier. Now that's pretty stupid, isn't it? In fact, incredibly stupid. In fact, just the opposite, we're making ourselves more unhappy. But the good news, and I promise you that's the only bad news, the good news is the economic system, that's a human system. We created it, we can uncreate it, we can do something different. And furthermore, in the minority world, in the 20th century, humans changed the economic system twice, to Keynesianism with a bigger focus on health and education and government, role of the government mid-century, and to neoliberalism with the misplaced idea of liberty by talking about free markets and freedom of the individual in the later century. We can do it again, and it's happening. And what's also good is there's a growing awareness that what's needed is not just tweaks to our system, but system change. We need radical shifts, not just minor little changes. And there's a growing consensus about what's needed. You can find that when you listen to people in communities right across the world about what they want. And they say the same things. They want an economic system that meets people's fundamental needs before the wants of a few. They want a just distribution, not just of wealth and income, but also of time and power. They want a system whose purpose is the common good of all life. They want a system where people have some say and some control over their own lives and their own economy. And they want a system above all that doesn't just sustain the planet and other life, it regenerates it, and furthermore, it reveres it. Just exactly as Puna was talking, where we're in reverence and unity with all life and at peace with all life. There's many terms for such an economy, and they're growing up all over the place. We use the term well-being economy, but you can use the donut economy, a regenerative economy, Ubuntu, and there's many other terms. They're talking about the same thing and the same goals. But the key question isn't what, because there's a lot of consensus about that in many right across the world, but how do we make it happen? And what comes when you look at how system change happens, there's all sorts of things that are necessary, but the critical additional things you need for system change is you need radical collaboration. It's not just bottom up, it's not just top down, it's right across every level of the system. It's across every sector, and it's across all geographies. We need radical collaboration right across peoples and nations. That's what brings system change. And the second thing that brings it are powerful stories that speak to who we really are as humans and our relationship with nature. They speak to not just our heads, but our hearts and our souls. That's what's needed to change a system. And that's what's happening, starting to happen now. Now, about 5 years ago, 4 of us met, just 4 individuals, by a lake in Scotland. And we had this mad idea that we're going to try and set up an organization to help catalyze the changes I've just talked about. And it seemed absolutely mad, the idea that 4 individuals sitting by a Scottish lake, avoiding the midges, could change the economic system. Crazy. But 5 years later, we've just been amazed, exactly the seeds that Susan's been talking about, by what's happened. And it's very much happened beyond us rather than because of us. But at this point already, we've got 400 international organizations, including big ones like Greenpeace and Oxfam, part of the Wellbeing Economy Alliance. We've got 20 national hubs or chapters, which are charities in their own right in several cases, and many more growing up all right across the world. And we're liaising terribly close with the donut economy groups. And so there's radical collaboration happening there. We've got thousands of individuals involved. We've got hundreds of academics now who've come part of this. And we've even got 6 governments who've committed to being a wellbeing economy government. And they include Canada, Iceland, Finland, Scotland, Wales, and New Zealand. And already the focus on a wellbeing economy, and a wellbeing economy, put really simply, is you set out to meet those goals straight away. You don't grow GDP and then spend huge amounts of money sorting out the problems you've caused in the first place. You have an economy that's just set out to achieve the things that humans want. And that's how you drive it. And it's far less wasteful, and it's far more joyful, and it's far more possible. So already you've seen in countries like New Zealand and Finland that had that approach a much better outcome of the coronavirus epidemic, because they were already talking about preparedness and prevention, and they were already taking a human-centered approach and bringing in wisdom from indigenous groups in their countries. You've seen a very different approach. Now, We All is not a movement itself, but we're a servant, a catalyst, a connector, a midwife, if you want, an amplifier to the movement and to the emerging movement. But what's really exciting is how much is bubbling up all over the place. And we're just one part of this. But I want to give you a real sense that things are changing. They're on the move. And what's needed now is similar types of organizations to ourselves in each of the areas, in health, in education, in democracy, in the human rights, in climate and biodiversity, who act as catalysts and midwives to all the organizations and all the change agents that are working there. So they bring about you start to get a seed of a movement that's global, not just about the economic system, but about changing fundamentally who we are and how we live together. And I can see that happening now. I'm quite old, but I actually think there's something terribly exciting happening. So I get out of bed most days now feeling very different than even a few years ago. And what vision might unite all these different groups? Well, I think the idea, and it comes originally from the East, but it bubbles up all over the place, of an ecological civilization is a possible one that might do that as a story that we're telling ourselves. Because it's an ecological civilization isn't just about how humans live together, but it's about our relationship with all life. And it's about the whole idea of not just talking about the common good of humans, but the common good of all life, the dignity of all life. And that's a pretty radical idea, but the seeds of it are there. And I think if we can create those stories, and those beautiful stories we've seen already that Susan's shown us are absolutely incredible. If we can keep presenting those out, we can keep telling that story of an ecological civilization, we can radically collaborate, then we will create the power and the love that will shift this system. So the final message is we can bring into being an ecological civilization where all beings flourish on a regenerated planet. This is vital, it's necessary, and it's entirely possible, and it's happening now. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Stewart. This is really inspiring, meaningful, and impactful, and truly gives us all reason for great hope. And thank you for reinforcing the messages of changing the story, radical collaboration, and engaging not just our heads, but our hearts and our souls. So thank you. Next, we're going to Africa, to the wonderful Menzi Maseko, who's working through communities to engage people through relationship creativity and Indigenous knowledges. Thank you, Menzi.
Greetings, everybody. Yes, I'm so also touched by everyone speaking. It's like we are speaking basically with one voice. So we are aiming for the same thing. So I'll just like to read my presentation so I can keep up to the 4.5 minutes that I have given myself. Greetings, it's Menzi Maseko. So the topic is prescriptions and recipes for a healthy future. And the reason I did that is because the title is Soul Food and the Seeds of Life. So if there's food, there must be a good recipe. Local and indigenous knowledge to reconnect with nature, health and purpose. Ancestral acknowledgement comes first, to give thanks to my people, giving thanks to all who came before us, mother, fathers, sisters, daughters and grandmothers and fathers, whose connection and relationships with nature was never documented in books or theorized. Giving praise to freedom fighters, village poets and griots, unsung healers, kingdom builders, creative artists and environmental defenders, the eco-warriors. Giving thanks to the children and their children's children, and to the unseen but longed for future. Every space is sacred and every soul has potential as a seed of life and well-being. In our Nguni cultures, we speak of a human being as umlungiswa or umenziwa, words that denote a being in constant transformation, augmentation, a seed in germination, and a person that is rightable or that can be made right, or capable of forgiving, being forgiven, being recreated and corrected. That is a human being. Umuntu, the real definition of umuntu. Abantu bayimbewu. People are seeds. What is soul food? Who owns the recipes for all that feeds the soul? It's not just a question of patents and intellectual property. It's a 21st century dinner table conversation. While it may be best known from the African American descriptions of mostly southern varieties of food, it really is what it sounds like: food or nutrition that nourishes the soul. But how can unhealthy remnants of slavery and colonialism feed a soul that is hungry and thirsty for freedom, thirsty for life? For a people who have never tasted freedom, what does it mean to suddenly have large plots of land to cultivate? Indeed, what to plant? Also, can you and your children afford to trust the master's seeds? What if the water is poisoned and the seeds are contaminated? Can we negotiate new terms for what is really nutritious for the soul? How can we heal the land with a sense of collective purpose, so that what it yields is good for the soul? The quick answer to these crucial questions can be summarized in 3 words or concepts. Sankofa. The word Sankofa comes from the Akan, or the Twi language of Ghana. It is an Akan term that literally means to go back and get it, or to go back and fetch what worked before so that it can work for you today and unto the future. One of the Andikra symbols for Sankofa depicts a mythical bird flying forward with its head turned backward. Ubuntu is the second word. Ubuntu is an interpersonal as well as cosmic principle. Ubuntu ensures that each living entity's dignity is mutually respected. By respecting other people and recognizing their human dignity, Ubuntu prevents one from treating another person as a means to an end, or as an instrument to achieve your own will. Nuances of Ubuntu include love, honor, and respect for animals and nature. You can't be Ubuntu unless you respect nature and animals and everything around you and other people's property. The third word is Chimurenga or Umvugela. So this Zimbabwean word means collective fight in defense of liberty, land and dignity. While we are all hoping for peace, there are those who thrive in conflict and false notions of unjust peace. It is imperative that those who love life are prepared to defend it from destroyers. It is the way of the peaceful warrior who does not cower to wickedness. planetary health is our health, and our health is the health of the planet. Thank you for listening. I'd like to just close it right there. Thank you very much for listening.
Well, thank you very much, Menzi. And I know we did lose you a little bit there, but the good news is you've sent your script, and I'm going to post the full script so everybody can appreciate that on the hub later on. So we really value those perspectives. Our next speaker, Gillian Orrow, is another dear friend. Thank you again, Menzi, of our network. And she's doing some inspirational work within the NHS in England. And she contacted me yesterday to say she's very unwell and can't join us, but she did send us her love and a 4-minute video, which does capture some of the important work that they're doing. So we thought that it would be wonderful to share this and her vision for those who are not aware of it. And we will post some more links in the chat. So we'll go to that now. Thanks, Lachlan.
Growing Health Together is a place-based approach to prevention and health creation that's underway in East Surrey. The benefits to this health creation approach are that as a system, we're able to hear from and respond to locally identified needs. And what we've observed through the process of this journey is that the needs in our different populations can vary really significantly, even within a very small area. And health creation puts the power and, as much as possible, the resources behind the people who are experiencing health inequalities and allows them to lead solutions that improve health and well-being.
I think one of the reasons the Stay and Play and everything we do here at the Community Hub is so successful is because I think the community trusts us. And now they have an alternative to going to the GP for respiratory issues in their children. They're likely not to go to A&E and ask their peers, ask the health visitor that we've got involved with the Stay and Play. So that really kind of involves peer-to-peer knowledge, and hopefully we'll see the impact on that in less A&E admissions, less visits to going to the GP, and that the community empowered to solve some of their health issues themselves.
For me, it's really good. Then I can chat with another moms and know a lot of people and see how they deal with the babies in the same age. And of course, for my kids, it's really good because they learn how to share, how to play properly.
Well, it's probably really important for people's mental health to mix, and especially when they've got young children, and especially if their children don't sleep, because otherwise, you're just indoors. It's nice if you can get out, chat with other people, chat with the other mums.
GPs in each of our 5 primary care networks in East Surrey have a small amount of protected time each month to go out into their local communities and connect with those people and places who are creating health in their area. And not only are they listening to what's already strong and working to support the health of the local community, but they're also hearing about where people are experiencing challenges or barriers that are preventing them from living really good and meaningful lives.
At the County Council, alongside all our partners in the Health and Wellbeing Board, we're really clear that in order to tackle health inequalities in Surrey, we have to work together in equal partnership with our communities.
I've been a GP for 28 years, and over the last few years, it's been the first time I've been able to leave my consulting room and go out into the community that I work and live in.
By looking at the population, we understand that there is a lot of South Asians who live in Red Hill, and diabetes and obesity are major factors and are the major issues which could be linked to specifically their culture, their way of life, poor dietary habits and sedentary lifestyle.
We have looked at population health management data to identify what are the local needs. So we are connecting Growing Health Together and population health management to then better understand the picture of what is needed in the community.
Every session we talk about different health problems, so from diabetes to dementia to high blood pressure to cholesterol. So they're learning a lot about how to change their lifestyles, eating better, exercising. They're having fantastic benefits from this group.
Our experience would suggest that bringing together population health management, data insights, with a relational, asset-based approach, working with communities, has the real potential to improve population health and health equity and ultimately sustainability of our healthcare system.
Well, I think we can all agree this is really inspirational for what a healthcare system can do with the right priorities and vision. So next, and continuing the theme of well-being through community transformation, we're delighted to welcome Somava Saha, President and CEO of Wellbeing and Equity in the World, We in the World. Welcome back to Nova, Soma.
Thank you so much, Susan. And I have to say how deeply inspired I am by this grounded beginning that's grounded at every level, grounded at the level of the heart, grounded at the level of connection with one another, and an understanding of why we all need to be in this kind of work together, and grounded in an analysis of the system that understands that the well-being of people, the well-being of places, the well-being of planet are all interconnected. I'd love to, in this moment, add just the appreciation of that. Usually those are all things I have to lay groundwork for at the beginning. And you all, this is an amazing to be part of a community that really owns and holds that. So first of all, thank you for creating space for us to come together in community and shared wisdom. In our work, what we do at We in the World and in the Wellbeing in the Nation Network, which is where we bring together an unprecedented collaboration, one that's national and one that's global, of everybody across generations, across sectors, just as Stewart spoke about earlier, about what does it take to create an unprecedented collaboration that can actually change these things, that can get to critical mass to shift what's needed today, but to also create the pivotal changes to change our dominant narratives, our policies, our investments, all of that. And as we've come together, what we've been paying a lot of attention to is who is getting to define that? How are we defining that? And as we've done that together in a grassroots to grass tops collaboration of thousands of people and built systems for those at the grassroots to shape what's emerging and those at the grass tops to be in relationship and proximity, some important things have emerged. And I wanted to today just share a few of those examples with you, along with one where there's an active process right now of grassroots to grass top sense making around what measurements can be done. But before we get to measures, we happen to steward a process, a federal, non-federal community, grassroots to grass tops process for measuring well-being of people, places, and systems. One of the things that we learned immediately from communities, and that we could see immediately as we analyzed power in systems, is that one of the x-axis to all of this work of shift has to be an understanding of how we got here, and in reclaiming both of the legacies of harm that led us here, and not from a place of blame and shame, but from a place of knowing that we all have the choice to be better ancestors today. That is, we cannot affect what others have done before from the context, but we can correct inequities and we can build on and strengthen and reclaim where we chose to do something well. And I think that both are important, to be honest about how we got here and to use our power and privilege to chart a path forward together that is a path toward renewal. A second part of that is acknowledging how much, and we saw that with Puna's wise words, how much is left behind when one dominant view has prevailed. But the harm of inequity isn't just to those who have been oppressed, it's to all of us, because we lose the ancient wisdom of not just what it means to protect 80% of the biodiversity of the earth, but the ancient wisdom of how we relate to the earth. And that act of coming together in shared stewardship for that to truly create well-being and equity in the world has to be done from a place where we don't ask those who are experiencing inequities first to change. We begin by changing ourselves. And that means we begin by transforming from within in our own understanding of these issues, in our own reclamation of both our own personal history, but the history of our families, the history of our communities, the history of our nation, the history of our world, in a way that helps us get together in proximity, to transform together, to be in relationship together, to restore us to ourselves, and to restore our social contract, and to create the space where those who experience inequities, whose pieces of the puzzle that's needed for the healing of the world may be getting left out, for those pieces to come in and be part of what we need for the collective healing of the world. And only on that basis can we truly understand what are the outcomes that need to shift and what is the basis. So over the last several years, we've been in a process of a living collaboration from the grassroots to grass tops to continually ask what needs to change. How do we understand that? How do we make sense of that with stories and data, building processes that are both about transforming ourselves with data and tools to help us to do that, that are about understanding where we're doing well and where we're not, from a humble process of learning and improvement in ourselves and self-accountability, to a collective process of getting to identify what measures matter and how stories of experiences can be used to map systems and to use to then interrupt, as we look at the bright spots of where those systems have been interrupted, to change the system. I wish I could share with you what this has meant for us, because as we've looked at what it means then to restore the vital conditions, to reclaim a narrative of abundance, what we've seen is that communities have what they describe as it's about being restored back to themselves, restored back to their sense of agency and possibility, and the sense that we together have what we need to create real change. And so in 5 minutes today, I don't have time to go over all of the technical details. And I was so, Stewart, as you were coming, I almost wanted to bring, here's our system thinking mapper on the well-being economy. But really, that's not ultimately what matters most. Is that we have the courage to engage in a process of mutual healing, of understanding that we too are harmed when we exist in a context that doesn't allow each of us to be fully whole, that we've grown whole economies on a presumption of adversity and an expectation of profit from that adversity. And that if we're really honest about what it means to not be extractive, we have to own what it means for us all to change in a way that's guided by those perhaps whose voices have not had the space, the room, the joy, the opportunity for leadership to guide us in this. And so for us, that it's that process of reclamation that is the real power. I would be remiss if I didn't invite any of you who are interested to vote. There's been a process of communities suggesting what new measures matter to them around healing racial justice and generational well-being. And all of you are part of community, and we invite any of you to do that. But as we go in this process, really the thinking about how we as a field develop a discipline to measure how we change ourselves, even as we work to say, how are we collectively changing the world? That's the invitation that I have for you today. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Soma. Your energy and reach are really inspirational. And thank you for reinforcing the ideas of this integrated vision of relationship, shared stewardship, and the transformation that we must make from within. Our next speaker, Aruj Raja, was going to be talking to us about the importance of the intergenerational perspectives, early life experiences for long-term attitudes and behaviours, and really see that critical theme into the sessions for this conference. Unfortunately, she literally just messaged me to say that she's really unwell and won't be joining us. But in our session later on, we will be, and in later sessions, we will be talking more about that. Now, we have reached about the midpoint of our session today, and we have time for some pressing questions, some key comments. So again, short questions, short answers, no lectures, please. It's not compulsory. And if there are no pressing questions, we will move on, but I'll just wait for a minute or two to see if anybody would like to. George.
I don't have a question. I just want to extend my gratitude to each of the speakers this morning, from the beginning right through the last one. This has been very inspiring, so thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Bud. Really, really appreciate that. Are there any additional comments, questions, inspirations? I think George Kaplan is wiggling his hand.
Okay. I was using the old form of waving. So I was really struck by the notion of radical collaboration. It seems to me at the heart of what some of us have been intrigued by is tapestry thinking, which means put all the dots together. But that creates an enormous challenge, because so much of the human activity is based on finding the solution, when in fact there is a wonderful tapestry of solutions that we need to move on simultaneously.
Thank you very much, George. I think it's all about listening too, isn't it? I think Isabel and then Teddy.
Hello, thank you very much. Greetings from the US, Florida. I joined this for the first time. I was intrigued by the invitation, and I just wanted to share that this idea of an evolution and this increase of collaboration is very dear to my heart. I am part of a network of educators that are collaborating across 58 countries in how to embed, how to develop a new mindset for a flourishing, for a sustainable planet into their teaching. And these are all outliers in their own institutions, because they're doing a little bit of strange work, besides teaching marketing or strategy, mostly in business schools. They are interested in seeing what are the paradigms that are underlying our failed models, and what is it that we need to develop further. And much of it relates with emotional and spiritual intelligence. So I'm very excited to be part of the network. And if there are any educators here in this call that are interested in learning, it's free and there are no obligations. You're all welcome. Just send me your email and into the chat. And thank you for organizing this, Susan.
Oh, thank you, Isabel. And there are educators in our network who I'm sure are interested, and also members of the IDG network who we overlap with as well. Teddy, welcome.
It's just great to be in your midst, and I am just soaking it in as a form of self-care. Thank you all so much. The generational speaker was not able to be present due to illness, so I just want to say, oh my gosh, we've got to do some transdisciplinary or transgenerational thinking. And the elder introduction was just spectacular, but some cultures, such as European culture, has lost the role of the elder, and we need to be radically remembering what that was. The young people need elders to step up. So as I look at the circle, I think, there's a lot of elders here. We need to recapture what that means for our culture and be fully present in that role. So I'm in the process of developing some work around that. And I think I really want to just put that out there. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Teddy. And that's so true and so inspirational. And it's great to know that you're working on that. Stewart.
Yeah, it's lovely. Just that they're so needed, what you were just talking about, Teddy, on working on the others. I just wanted to make one response to what George Kaplan was saying, because I think you're absolutely right, George. For a lot of my life, I've despaired. There's various times when I was at New Economics Foundation, I tried to get people to collaborate. And we often fell out about policy or about fundraising, whereas what's critical, I think, for radical collaboration is, first of all, putting the ego aside. Secondly, realizing that collaboration is far more important than agreement. We don't have to agree. Furthermore, realizing that actually difference makes actually is very creative. That's how things move forward, is by coming up against constraints and difference. And lastly, the only point of collaboration has to be about values and goal and the broad vision. So as long as people share a vision of a type of world we want, that's the point of collaboration. You can disagree radically about modern monetary theory or about X or Y. That's not the point. The point is we have to, we're not going to change anything unless we realize that love and collaboration is far more important than whether we all think the same. In fact, it's crucial we don't think the same. So I just wanted to comment on that, because I see more people living that way now, and that's immensely hopeful compared to what I used to see, which was competition at the level of this is my way, which is not going to get us anywhere.
Thank you so much, Stewart. And it's very, very much about blurring our edges, letting go of some of those belief systems that we hold on to so tightly, so that we can open our minds and hearts to growth. I really thank you so much for adding that. Now, as there are no more hands up, and we will have more discussion at the end, at least I don't see any more hands up, and to refresh your mind and spirit, we will now play part one of a truly beautiful art project, Thrive, the art exhibition. This is the 2-minute video of some of the beautiful images set to music. Please enjoy, and then we will hear from the architect of this wonderful work, Sarah Warber, Nova scholar and co-creator of the Mutual Reawakening Collaborative. So Lachlan's going to roll the film now. So let's go directly to Sarah now, who'll tell us about her journey and the journey of this wonderful group of creatives. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you to all of you for the wise words we've been hearing. Thrive, Healthy People, Healthy Planet is a photographic exhibition that was facilitated by the Mutual Reawakening Collaborative, which I have the happy privilege of perhaps inspiring and following. Our vision is a flourishing and livable world where humans and nature coexist for the better health of all. The Thrive exhibition was designed to reach a broad spectrum of humans that inhabit health centers, patients, visitors, learners, staff. It encourages viewers to reflect on their relationship with nature. It enhances awareness of how planetary health influences human health, and it invites action by individuals, groups, and communities. But what I'd like to tell you about today is a little bit about the process through which this came to be. First of all, we dreamed of nature, health, and a balanced life in the context of the environmental upheaval we find ourselves in and that we've created. We hoped that we could work collaboratively across disciplines. We are artists, we are scholars, we are scientists and anthropologists and dreamers. We hope to inspire others to imagine new ways of living. We looked to expressive arts and memes to tell our story of hope and health. What we found was alarm and despair. In COVID times, we grew. We added more expertise and other perspectives. We met 100% virtually, but we did nature and arts-based invitations to connect ourselves to nature, our own true selves, and each other. Each time before a meeting, we were given an instruction to go out into nature and then document it in some expressive way. And we began all meetings by sharing everybody's experience. This changed us. We co-created Essentials for Health. We learned through the pandemic that we had gifts from the earth, water, food, air, energy, and we combined those with essentials for humans, purpose, community, and safety. We articulated our vision, our mission, our goals to bring nature and health together. We invited photographers and digital artists through an international open call. We had more than 100 entrants, giving us more than 500 pieces of art to curate. These are the Thrive artists, 24 people from 6 different countries and all parts of the United States, who gifted us with their vision of the essentials of health. We co-curated iteratively, endlessly, sometimes it seemed, and the Thrive Healthy People, Healthy Planet was born. The inaugural exhibition was at the University of Michigan Health Center this summer. Now, we invite you to become a Thrive ambassador. In your institution, your health center, or your community, the exhibit is boxed up. We've created an immersive nature soundscape to go with it. We're planning a toolkit of ideas and a discussion guide that will help you to implement this wherever you are, wherever you want to bring this message of the essentials of health. You can visit our website. We're scheduling for 2024 and beyond. You could contact me by email. You can see the Mutual Reawakening website where you learn more about our collaboration. And I'll put these in the links after the talk. With a project of this magnitude, there's many people to thank. I extend my thanks to all the individual artists and contributors, and especially to our generous supporters, the Nova Institute, the University of Michigan. Together, we have set a vision in motion. Please join us. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sara. And I think this is just a perfect example of putting a dream into reality and influencing so many other people powerfully in the process. Congratulations. Our next speaker is Stephan van Vliet from Utah State University, and he's also a NOVA invited faculty member. He's going to talk about food systems, seeding another theme into the conference that we were going to expand on in the sessions later on, particularly this afternoon. So welcome, Stephan.
Thank you so much, and thank you for setting the stage so well, Sarah. I really enjoyed your presentation, and I will build upon that and talk about our work as clinical interventionists, and that's really my background. We do a lot of human nutrition research, randomized controlled trials in clinical facilities, and I'm associated with the Center for Human Nutrition Studies at Utah State University. So just to talk a little bit about sort of the bigger picture of what we're really interested in is the concept, right, that soil health, plant health, animal health, and the health of people are interrelated. And while intuitively that makes sense to all of us, there's surprisingly little research that was done on the past. And I think what we talked about here a lot is sort of the need for interconnectivity and for people to bridge across different expertises, which typically have remained in silos. I mean, to give a small little anecdote, when I was at medical schools, we never worked with agricultural schools. We were studying mostly diseases that were rooted in dietary origin, for instance. So there's two major interests in the sustainability piece we're working on. We got to the simple question, do more sustainable practices that improve the planet, also improve the health of people. So we profile a lot of foods, seeing if more sustainable practices beneficially impact the food, nutritional composition, and then we feed these to people and look at people's health as well. Does it also shake out? And I really want to talk a little bit about the concept of agroecology, or in layman's terms, regenerative agriculture. It is not a new concept at all. You can find writings in the early 1900s of Sir Albert Howard. He refers to Chinese writings as well. But it is the concept of that the fact that nature has introduced great biodiversity into ecosystems, and for some reason as humans we always want to simplify it, probably because that's the only way we can understand it. But nature in its complexity, it tends to work. So what agroecology is working more with natural systems, or most closely mimicking natural systems. After the Green Revolution, we went to a system of monocultures, subjecting nature to our will. It works good in the short run, doesn't work very well in the long run. We're finding out now we're going through a transition of decarbonization, improving sustainability. So ecosystems is nature-based solutions, integrated crop livestock systems, multi-species grazing, polyculture systems of growing crops. So, and this is from the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, and we're involved I'm involved in a scientific advisory committee, and we're really focusing on the 5 principles of sustainable food, and meaning that we improve the efficiency of resources, protecting natural ecosystems. Obviously, the rural livelihoods, equity, and social well-being are just as key, and enhancing the resilience of people, communities, ecosystems, as well as promoting good governance in natural systems. So the question here is that can we come up with systems that improve both? That if we improve one thing, do we have a ripple down effect? How this would look like, for instance, in a system of agroecology, and how it looks like would be different on every system and every location. But if we look at what's called regenerative farming systems, we're looking at decreasing our external inputs, or decreasing our reliance on fossil fuels, on synthetic fertilizers, on tillage, and also integrating livestock and crops where possible, or if not possible, we work on multi-cropping systems. What we typically see and look at nature, we don't see one herbivore, we also don't see a monoculture of plants, and we see that integrating multiple plants improves the nutritional quality of crops. So if we grow this carrot and potato separately, or we grow them in a more combined system, we see typically an improvement in the nutritional composition, and we see a synergy, and the same in animal systems. We're particularly interested in sort of the dark matter of nutrition, the stuff that does not appear in your nutrition facts panel. Typically, we focus on protein, vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids historically, but we're finding out now food contains thousands and probably hundreds of thousands of biochemicals that can impact our health. Antioxidants, for instance, polyphenols, flavonoids, things that we know now impact our health. We're linking that to human health as well as the nutrigenome, which is disease-related gene expression, how it is impacted by nutrition. So by improving the health of soils, plants, and animals, can we improve the health of people? And my last slide is I cannot do it all, but we're working in systems research, but our focus is particularly on diet and lifestyle and human health. And getting after the question, do agroecological production practices also benefit human health? This is a growing system, and we're trying our part in understanding if how the relationship between these things is, and elucidating those relationships so that hopefully policy will be positively impacted by that. With that, I like to turn it back over to Susan, and thank you so much. And it's great to see so many different faces here today. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Stephan. I mean, this is really a wonderful way to introduce those concepts of ecological integration from the soil right through to our own personal microbiomes. And this is the perfect segue to our next speaker, Sue Ishaq from the University of Maine. And she's also a NOVA invited faculty member, a true integrationist like many here. She's been connecting people and ideas, and she's going to talk about how foundational ecosystems can literally connect the dots in all systems. Thank you very much, Sue.
That's great. Thank you so much for that introduction. And also thank you, Stephan, for teeing me up really well. I'm really interested in looking at whether broccoli sprouts in the diet can be used to induce gut bacteria to make an anti-inflammatory right in our guts to resolve symptoms of inflammatory bowel disease. Now, there's a lot of great things in broccoli sprouts and in fruits and vegetables in general. But broccoli sprouts tend to be really high in anti-inflammatories. They're affordable, they're easy to grow, you can integrate them into other things, and you've got that multi-nutritional benefit from that. And so the particular compound that we're really interested in right now is called glucoraphanin, which is inactive for us, but it is particularly useful for that plant in order to ward off insect predators. So if anything is going out and chewing up that raw broccoli or that raw broccoli sprout, that glucoraphanin is going to be released along with an enzyme that's in our broccoli sprouts. And that's going to shake up that little chemical cocktail and create this compound called sulforaphane, which helps ward off those insect predators. And we're really interested in broccoli and broccoli sprouts because this precursor compound is particularly high in broccoli seeds and sprouts. So it gives us a lot to work with. So we're not insects, so we don't necessarily care about that. But what's really fascinating about biology is what is bad for insects happens to be really good for us. So that same sulforaphane end product is an anti-inflammatory for humans. And if you eat raw broccoli or raw broccoli sprouts, you'll get about 15% of that precursor compound ending up as that anti-inflammatory, and you'll absorb it in your stomach, which can be helpful. The problem is that there's this other compound, this enzyme in broccoli, that will take about 85% of that precursor and take it into something inactive that we can't use. But the great news is that if you cook your broccoli or your broccoli sprouts, it will inactivate those enzymes and it will leave that glucoraphanin intact, such that when you eat your broccoli or your broccoli sprouts, that glucoraphanin is going to make it all the way into your gastrointestinal system. And it's going to make it all the way through because we actually can't use glucoraphanin ourselves. It's inactive for us. We don't have any enzymes that can process it in any way, but there are some specific gut microbes that live in different parts of our intestines that will actually take that glucoraphanin, produce some enzymes, and create sulforaphane anti-inflammatory right in our digestive tract for us. And what was particularly exciting is that depending on how you cook those sprouts and the amount of heat that you use, you can change the amount of enzymes and you can impact where that is going to hit in your gut. And so this particular slide is from feeding steamed broccoli sprouts to mice in a lab experiment, and that resulted in high concentrations of that sulforaphane anti-inflammatory only in the colon, which is what those black bars are showing. All the little bars in the very front of that, that's other parts of the intestine. So we were able to get sulforaphane anti-inflammatory to hit right at the site of inflammation in these mice, which is really, really exciting. And so this is an incredibly busy slide. So you only have to look at the very top of it or listen to me reading that off. If you're not sure what any of this looks like, don't worry about it. But this is essentially like the most exciting part to microbial ecologists. So basically in a healthy intestines, bacteria are going to live in very specific locations in your gut because they like the neighborhood. And so in that graph on the very left, we can see that those samples are clustering by gut location, and you can see that they're clustering by color of the sample, which indicates where they are from the gut. So all you have to know is that all the red and the gold are clustering together, and all of the blue and the purple and green are clustering together. In that middle graph that's highlighted in red, we can see that colitis or inflammatory bowel disease erases those bacterial communities. So it disrupts their ecosystem. They're not able to live in the places that they want. And we can see that now we have colors all over that graph. They're not clustering by gut location anymore. And what's really, really exciting is that all the way on the right, we see that broccoli sprouts that were fed to these mice during colitis recovered that bacterial pattern. So we see those gold and those red together again. We see those blue and those purple and those green together again. So we put those bacteria back where they belonged, and hopefully that meant that they were functioning. Which seems great. Maybe we fixed IBD in mice, but the problem is we as humans choose not to eat these things, or sometimes we wish we could eat better diets, and we certainly don't. And so the other half of what we're trying to do now is to start understanding why people are making decisions about diet, healthcare, and these things that are leading to differences in their gut microbiome, such that we can create feasible strategies. So we are doing an ongoing human diet trial. We're investigating some of these different aspects. So here's a little teaser of some of that. We spent quite a bit of time improving our study materials to improve accessibility and inclusion to a wider audience by making them much, much more user-friendly. And sometimes that was as simple as putting the picture of the food we were asking about right in the survey, which was not there in the versions of the surveys that we found online. Sometimes it means that we're building trust with our participants by making that participation fun. So we created recipe books for them to steam the broccoli sprouts and then make different food preparations that are fun. We've made custom stickers for everybody who's participating in this project. We've really upped our social media game. So this is a video screenshot from one of our project pages where people can go and find all of the up-to-date information. They can read about us, the researchers, and they can understand the science behind what it is that we're doing and why we're asking them to do this. And we're also asking them quite a bit about food choice and barrier. So at the very end of the study, in addition to asking them what they eat, we're asking them why it was difficult or easy to eat these sprouts, how they felt about participating, and if there was anything that we could have done in any way, shape, or form to make this easier for them, because they're critical to our thing. So if any of that resonates with you, a lot of this work is sort of inherent to the microbes and social equity working group that I run. We run activities throughout the year where we try to get microbiome scientists to understand that people are people. And so with that, I'm going to acknowledge the hundreds of people that have been involved with everything that I just threw at you, and then throw this up really quickly in case you would like to connect with us. But again, all you have to do is look up Sue Ishaq or Microbes and Social Equity online, and that should get you to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sue. And I think it's really important to have these granular molecular stories which actually connect to practical applications and real food. And this presentation and others are really going to lay the foundations for counter narratives to what we're going to be talking about in next sessions about ultra processed foods and the implications of not having foods with microbiomes and so on and so forth. So if you're wondering how that all fits into the story, these are the seeds for that ongoing conversation. So thank you so much again for that, Sue. The next health theme we will seed is about our stories, and we've already heard why this is important from many others. And this is going to be a major theme throughout this conference. And we're absolutely delighted that Blake Hestir, Professor of Philosophy at TCU, is going to talk more about this. Thank you and welcome, Blake.
Thank you, Susan. I really appreciate the warm invitation to be here today. This is an amazing group. I'm already learning so much. And Sue, I've got sprouts on my shopping list for the day. I'm heading directly there. This is fantastic. I thought I would start by, sometimes I wish we had time to share stories and learn about each other, but we have just short periods of time here. Sometimes I think you can learn about somebody by learning about the people that they hang out with. And I was going to show you a few images of some people that I hang out with, my students, and also some people in the retreats that we offer through the Mind Body Ecology Institute. So I work as a professor of philosophy at a university called TCU here in North Texas. And I've been here for about 25 years. And I'm part of an organization on campus. I'm the associate director of what's called Calm Studies at TCU. And we lead student meditation groups. And we also teach courses that integrate contemplative practices into the pedagogy. And it's really taken off. And so these are some of our happy Calm Studies students at our inaugural meditation retreat this past fall. And then I wanted to show you this photo. So I am co-director and co-founder of an organization called the Mind Body Ecology Institute. And we take the work that I do in philosophy, which is discussions of mind, consciousness, self, interdependence, embodiment, within the framework of ecology and sustainability and equity. We take that into the community. And so this is one of our groups from 2022. And here's another photo from a group that we had last summer. And we had the honor of spending time sharing space with these three amazing human beings. This is Bainawa, Shaya, and Kupi Huni Quinn from the Pinua village in Accra, Brazil, deep in the rainforest. And they just happened to be in the same place where we were, and we were able to share space with them and learn about their cosmology and honor them as well. And so one of the things I want to point out about this group is the multi-dimensional ways in which we focus on diverse groups. Diversity in all different ways. And so just talk a little bit about why we think that's so important. And I think this is not going to be anything new to you all, but, sometimes it's nice to hear other people talk about it. So one of the programs that my friend Alex Julie, who's a director at the Mind Body Ecology Institute, is developing is an underwater meditative immersion program that we want to make fully accessible to everyone so that we can go down under the water, practice meditation, and also raise awareness about what's happening to our oceans. And so today's topic, what I wanted to focus on is fear and crisis thinking that has, I think, been foregrounded in sustainability conversations and reasons why we might want to rethink that. So this may or may not be news to you, but the CDC in the United States recently released a report in which they claim that teen mental health here is in a red alert. And you can read through these statistics. I'm happy to make these available to you. You can find them online. But these numbers are shocking and very, very concerning. So nearly half of LGBTQIA plus students seriously considered attempting suicide. And in 2021, Black students were more likely to attempt suicide than students of other races and ethnicities. I mean, this is shocking. It's disturbing. And here are the latest numbers from the University of Pennsylvania, they've been keeping data on student mental health since 2010. And they started in 2010 because they noticed the rise in anxiety and depression, social anxiety, and so forth. And notice that these numbers continue to rise unabatedly. There's a little leap with academic distress, but that's associated, of course, with the pandemic. And then this number, which is, I think, particularly relevant for our conversation here today, a study that Britt Ray at Stanford, who was involved with, who just published a book that I haven't read yet, but I'm looking forward to reading. It's called Gen Dread, and it's focusing on the mental health of emerging adults, what we refer to as emerging adults between the ages of 18 and 30, roughly. But this study focused on young adults in 10 different countries around the world between the ages of 16 and 25. And these numbers are alarming as well. 59% were very or extremely worried about climate change. 84% moderately worried. 50% felt sad, anxious, angry, powerless, helpless, and guilty. And over 45% felt negatively affected in their daily lives and functioning. And many reported a number of negative thoughts. So Somava earlier was talking about becoming better ancestors. And Teddy mentioned becoming better elders. This idea of becoming an excellent elder is something that really resonates with me and with with a number of people in the academic world that I work with. What we're concerned about is alarmist rhetoric, crisis thinking, fear-based action that we're hearing from the sustainability movement. So Antonio Gutierrez is doing amazing work, and this is not a criticism of him at all, but lines like humanity has opened the gates of hell. When I read this, it caught the headlines, of course, and this is from ABC News. The next day, I went into class and played the video clip for my students because I was really interested to see how this landed with them. And we had been through all of the stuff about what's happening with the environment and had, a nice, constructive, forward-thinking conversation about it. But then after watching this video, all of these heavy feelings started to emerge. And one of the things I'll talk about here in a minute is, these feelings we're all going to have, and they're important to have, but alarmist rhetoric can inflame them in ways that only exacerbate certain problems and leave, certainly the younger generations, with this sense of despair and helplessness. Kyle White, who is a professor of sustainability studies at the University of Michigan, published an article back in 2021 that I found particularly inspiring. It's called Against Crisis Epistemology. And he basically runs through a set of arguments pointing out that this narrative, this Western narrative about climate change, has been cast in terms of crisis and fear-based action. And what happens when we shift into this kind of mode, it's not denying that people are, in crisis. People are definitely in crisis. There are people in crisis here in North Texas, just personal crises. But this global crisis becomes something more abstract. And there's this notion that we can fix it. And there's a certain urgency at throwing technology at it and so forth. And that can, stimulate unwise action and, most significantly for him, continue to marginalize, exclude, and discriminate and harm communities who have been traditionally marginalized and left out. So one of the things that we're doing at TCU with Calm Studies, and we're doing with the Mind Body Ecology Institute, we have collaborated with the Center of Healthy Minds at the University of Wisconsin. Richie Davidson, who is a noted neuroscientist, is there. He founded the Center for Healthy Minds. And to focus on what we refer to as inner transformation and making ourselves healthier, more holistic people. And we do that through having conversations. We do this in the Mind Body Ecology Institute and in our courses, focusing on the different, what we take to be ingredients of flourishing. This is not to define flourishing. It's just, these are some of the markers of a flourishing life. And in particular, I want to point out focusing on emotions and then also focusing on developing a sense of purpose and building community in which people know that they belong not just have a sense of belonging. And a key part of working with emotions is realizing that we're always going to experience fear and anger and sadness and despair. And to think of those emotions as actually being the grounds for the possibility of love, of courage, of justice, of meaningfulness and purpose. But to be cautious about thinking in terms of crisis and thinking in terms of fear, these fear-based narratives. So I have a little bit here on inner transformation. I'll not read through this. I'm short on time now, but this quote from Thich Nhat Hanh really resonates with me. There's a revolution that needs to happen, and it starts from inside each one of us. And then I'll end with this slide. This is a photo that I took of two wildflowers at the Rocky Mountain Ecodharma Retreat Center last August. And these flowers, to me, they represent resilience. And that's one of the messages that we really want to impart to our students and the participants in this organization that I'm a part of. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Blake. I mean, this is so important. Changing the story from fear and crisis to flourishing and opportunity is a major responsibility that we have, and it's going to be a major part of our next session. So especially when we think about mental health and justice. So this is a key thread of this conference that we're going to develop as we go on, and especially thank you for reinforcing the importance of inner connections and inner development. So our next speaker works at the coalface of changing stories with art and creativity for personal and community healing. And so I'm so delighted to welcome Renee from the Resilience Project to talk about their important works. Welcome, Renee.
Hello, and thank you all of everybody here. It's a real honor to be here today, and I just want to share my regards to everyone here. I would like to start with the song, if that's all right, just because of part of my own healing and the impacts that art and music has had on my own transformation and the transformation of the community in which I represent. Davy, oh Davy, Davy, oh Davy, Davy, oh Davy. Thank you, guys. Singing that song has significance to me. As a survivor of sexual violence and sexual assault, I was unable to sing for 3 years. And the power that music and art has had in my own life really resonates in terms of everything I do. And I just want to share initially, my organization that I founded in 2017 is really founded as an offering to our earth, an offering to the sacredness that is within each one of us. So I just bow to that sacredness in each of you. And I'm really excited to share a bit about my organization and how it is changing lives. So I am a part of a dynamic organization called the Resilience Project. And the Resilience Project really celebrates the triumph of the human spirit. And that triumph of the human spirit is illustrated in various ways for survivors of sexual violence and sexual assault. We use art therapy, music therapy, wilderness therapy, and we plant trees in order to honor survivors. So just a little bit more about the work we do. And again, to start off with acknowledgements, I really want to acknowledge the earth to which we are all a part of. I want to acknowledge the soil, the air, the elements, all of the things that have allowed us to be and allow us to flourish. I want to acknowledge each of you here and the light that is within each of us. And I just want us to all, as we're here collectively, thinking about ways and solutions for the many crises on our planet, to remember that the solutions are already inside of us and that this rediscovery is part of our birthright. And so just a little bit about my own process of rediscovery through my face of trauma. So I founded the Resilience Project in 2017, and it really was a way to give back in terms of all of the things that have given me opportunity throughout my life. When I was in college, my second year of college, I became a survivor of sexual violence, and that experience really changed who I was and who I am. I was able to go to a dark part of myself and emerge. And then not only to emerge, but also to help with others as they turn their pain into medicine. The Resilience Project does several endeavors in terms of helping survivors of sexual violence and sexual assault with terms of crisis, making sure that there's casework management for survivors, along with providing on-the-ground art therapy, music therapy, and just allowing for survivors to reclaim their stories and to reclaim their sense of voice after trauma. Our vision is to live in a world where body autonomy is respected to the full individual, is cherished and held in the face of their trauma. We live in a world where there are diverse and robust accessible resources to treat trauma and symptoms, and a world that we create and cultivate with our programming. And so one of the things that we do at the Resilience Project is we do a very beautiful thing called the Murals of Resilience. We paint murals throughout where we're based in Tucson, Arizona, but these murals are more than just art. They also embed QR codes that have community resources related to self-care. Also, we have medicine in terms of medicine songs within our murals. So we really embed healing inside of our murals themselves. And that's part of our vision for collective healing for our communities, as well as self-expression for our artists. Our mission with the Resilience Project is, as a research-based organization, to use art to invigorate the sense of triumph in individuals who identify as survivors of sexual assault. It is our sincere hope to create change in our community through our scholarship, music, and art programs. And we hope to encourage the presence of diverse services directed to the prevention and for the postvention of those who experience sexual assault or sexual violence in persistence after their trauma. One of the ways that we are doing this is this fabulous thing called our Trees for Triumph. And we actually plant trees on 5 major continents. Each of these trees are dedicated to the healing of survivors. So survivors are given a tree, and a tree is growing along with their own healing. We have planted over hundreds of trees so far, and it's something that we're really proud of as we are regreening the earth, working in agroforestry projects, and also helping survivors with their own healing. Another way that we are giving back to our communities is through the Murals of Resilience program, and that is, again, using survivor-created art to amplify voices within the community. These murals are embedded again with QR codes, which consist of medicine songs, poetry, and art that is produced from survivors. Here goes an example of some of the survivor-based work that is produced. Each year we have a scholarship program, and this scholarship program is an art-based program that we go through different universities. These universities and students are able to submit their art confidentially and receive a scholarship reward, along with being featured in the Mural of Resilience for each of the calendar year. We also have some really neat programming. So we do wildlife therapy, music and vibrational therapy, and art therapy. And we encompass all of this with Persephone's Promise. This is an app that is for survivors. And so it's a one-stop shop for survivors based on resources that are psychological, that are medical, or that are just intrinsic to being a survivor, crisis lines, and so forth. So we really take into account immediate cares and then also ancillary cares that is going to be a result from a sexual violence encounter. And so as a person who has gone through sexual violence and sexual assault, I'm not sponsored by any large organization, or I'm not sponsored by any particular university. This organization really is a heart-led organization. It comes from my heart, and it's impacted so many so far. And it's just such a huge honor to be here and to be able to share the beauty and the grace that comes from healing. And as we're here together, I would be amiss not to share one more thing with you guys as I'm wrapping up my just kind of description of the organization. I would love to have an opportunity to read from this book. It's called Her Grace, Only Her Grace. It is a book from my path, and it's called The Chandi. This is a meditation on Bhuvaswari, the Divine Mother. Om Bala Vidra Yuta Midya Krityam Tangya Kucham Nayan Tradyam Yukjam Maspra Mukhi Vardam Kasi Pata Bisa Kraram Prajne Bhuta Sim. And it translates as this: I absorb myself in deep meditation on Bhuvaswari, the ruler of the universe. She is full of effulgence, like the rising sun, the moon that appears on her crest jewel. It has heavy and well-formed breast, 3 eyes, and a smiling countenance. In her 4 hands is the weapons of a hook and a noose. 1 hand is a gesture of blessing, and another is assurance for freedom of fear. And I wish to send that love to each of you guys, the freedom of fear and the freedom to be able to have radical self-acceptance as we're all on this healing journey together and transforming our beautiful planet to which we all live and share. I bow to each of you, and I thank you for sharing time with me today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Renee. Thank you for sharing your heart, as well as the important transformational healing work that you're doing and the lives that you're touching, turning challenge into new growth and reinforcing the role of creative energy in healing. And that's so important in a world where we are seeing so many stories of trauma right now. Now, our next speaker is Christine Davies from UWA, and the topic's an extension of the importance of the arts and health. It's actually a recording, so I'll invite you to have a look at that.
Hi everyone, my name is Christine Davies. I'm Director of the Centre for Arts, Mental Health and Wellbeing at the University of Western Australia. And today what I'm going to do is to chat about what is good arts, good mental health. I know a lot of academics like to give statistics and, frameworks and all that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a personal story. And hopefully by doing that, the steps towards what is good arts, good mental health will become quite obvious. I have a background in public health, an undergrad in psychology, PhD in public health, arts and health. But what most people don't know about me is that I am a visual artist. A few months ago, I was painting before I went to bed. I liked my painting. I uploaded it to Instagram. I woke up in the morning and my painting had trended. So not only was I feeling happy, I'd painted the night before, but I was also feeling amazing because people like my work. As I'm walking out of my bedroom door, my daughter Bella, she's reading this book, Little People, Big Dreams, about Audrey Hepburn. She's so captivated by this book, she doesn't even notice me. I am going to the kitchen and my husband is making us breakfast and there's beautiful music playing in the background. As we pile into the car, we have a playlist that we really like to listen to before we start our day in terms of work and school. And in that moment, I realized something. And what I realized was, as a family, we're really happy. And on most days before we leave for work and school, we have done 20 minutes of arts. Whether it be painting or reading a book or listening to music, we've done 20 minutes of arts. So look, it wasn't always like this. The thing that changed everything, the thing that really gave us insight, was actually having Bella. So what Bella taught us was, you don't have to be good at the arts for the arts to be good for you. That's point 1. As kids draw, they paint, they sing, they dance. They don't mind what other people think. So it's about the process of doing. It's about the learning. It's about the enjoyment. It's the fun. It's interacting with other people. Now, the next thing she taught us, so this is point 2, was that for us, the arts was really quite essential to our mental health, to our happiness. The arts isn't a luxury. It is really quite essential. Essential for our family, essential for our well-being. Enjoyment, happiness, joy. We all need more joy and happiness. Add to this my research, which has found that 2 hours per week of arts is linked to mental well-being. Where is the health message for the arts? We have so many messages when it comes to sport. In Australia, we have messages like be active, life be in it. So this idea that sport is fun, but sport is also good for your health, good for your mental health, has actually been around for a really long time. But now, the evidence is quite strong that arts is linked to mental health, mental well-being. So the time is right now for an arts and health message. And this is exactly what Good Arts, Good Mental Health is. It's about creating a campaign with a message. It's about you doing the art you love. So if you like painting, paint. If you like drawing, draw. If you like singing, do that. Listening to music, that's great too. Also knowing that you need 2 hours per week of arts as the threshold for good mental well-being. However you decide it suits your lifestyle, that's the way you should do it. And that's the campaign and the message we want to create. The next thing we want to do is we want to create courses for everyday people so that they understand what arts and health is. And we also want to create professional development for the arts, health, mental health and local government sectors, so that relationship between arts and mental health becomes quite clear. And then finally, what we want to do is to, with our partners, create some demonstration projects so that people have access to the arts, but they also have some free and low-cost activities and events where they can try something new. But what we want to do is to provide access and opportunity. So that is what Good Arts, Good Mental Health is. You might want to keep in touch with this project or get involved if you Google Good Arts, Good Mental Health. You can also follow us on both Instagram and Twitter, and our handle is ArtsHealthWA. And that is Good Arts, Good Mental Health. Thanks so much. Bye.
So I'm going to bring us to discussion now, and I hope you can appreciate that the purpose of this session was to seed a number of diverse and interconnected topics that we can expand across the course of the conference in the spirit of tapestry thinking and integration. I do have an invitation from Dawn and the Nova Hub team, and this is really just an invitation for those who would like to continue the conversation on the Hub, that they will be hosting a discussion there where you can post links, make further comments, etc. So we just wanted to make you aware of that. But I think, Soma, you have your hand up, and then we'll go to Federica.
I just wanted to appreciate the depth and beauty and connectedness of these presentations, all a different piece of the puzzle, but it's so clear how they're connected. I think in our work, we've been thinking a lot about how this work feels grounded for those who are experiencing poor well-being every day, and how it feels relevant for them, because often our conversations feel disconnected and not something that speaks to where people are and how they're trying to survive. When I hear Blake's presentation, it's so right on. And then when I think about what youth have said to me, they say, well, really, we're despairing because you've robbed our future from us, the planet, and there aren't jobs. And so part of what I wonder about is how do we build a collective discipline to go from these ideas to how we ground ourselves in practical relationship and work to change some of the conditions that are leading youth to despair or creating violence that women are recovering from. I love the Resilience Project, Renee. It's so beautiful, and yet intergenerational trauma and the need for generational healing and the generational reconnection is so vivid. So I don't have an answer. I really am asking that as a question. And how have you all been thinking about it?
Thank you, Soma. And I think part of that solution is the connections, is the sharing of stories, so that we can amplify that side. And that's certainly what we're going to be continuing to do throughout the conference. Federica.
Yes, thank you, Susan, and thanks everyone for the amazing, inspiring talks. I was thinking about the food system, and it raised to me a sort of ethical question, maybe a little bit provocative, but since we're talking about radical change, I was thinking how are we okay with, if we continue with this idea of seeing animals, farm animals, as a product for us to use. If we keep seeing animals as dairy or meat, how is this advancing planetary consciousness and really protecting the well-being of all life on the planet? So it's kind of difficult. I understand this is provocative and really requires a radical change, but how do we justify the kind of exploitative behavior that we have towards animal, even in the context of agroecology or agroforestry? Maybe this is a question for Stephan or anyone who has some thoughts. Thank you so much.
Does anyone have a very brief response to that? Because it's such an important question that we may have to take to the chat on the hub. Okay. But thank you so much for that. And I think there'll be opportunities to talk about this further later in the conference, but we will go to Taylor now.
Thank you all. This is really an amazing, inspiring morning for me. I want to just remark on Blake's comments about the declining attitudes of that kids have coping with climate among everything else, and specifically in climate. There are great examples to reinforce, I think, for the younger generations, the fact we're not completely, murderous of this planet, even though it looks like it. But I just wanted to cite the ocean cleanup. It's a project everybody should look at if you're not familiar with it. They're cleaning the Pacific garbage patch up. And it's an extraordinary effort to actually do that. And this organization that continues to grow is harvesting, blue bins of trash out of by the tons out of the Pacific garbage patch. They're locating, ships is the right word, collectors at the mouths of rivers, which are the origins of much of the trash that gets into the circulation of the oceans. And there are efforts to bring to grow in places using the Bund techniques in Africa and elsewhere, where you're actually seeing the flowering of food and plants that just where bare dirt used to roam. There are a number of examples of where great strides are being made, and our efforts are in schools and in K-12, and focusing on well-being and how to make that happen there. These are some of the things we want to try to impart into the younger generations that the adults we've screwed it up, but we're trying to work on it. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you so much, Taylor. And I think it's wonderful that we have these bright spots emerging. We are coming up to time, and we really do like to finish on time. We are coming up to time, and we really do like to finish on time. So as this end of the session approaches, I really want to thank all of the speakers for their important perspectives and for seeding the themes that we're going to continue to build on in other sessions. We now have a 2-hour break until our next session, and I first wanted to direct you to the wonderful, diverse abstract video presentations that have just been published at this moment, I hope, and they're going to be on our event page. So please have a look at some of the other contributions that we just didn't have time for in the main conference. Some really inspiring work. And of course, just to remind you of that invitation from Dawn and the Hub team to go there in about half an hour if you want to continue to discuss amongst yourselves with speakers who go and various others on the Hub. So thank you all again, and we have another amazing lineup at our next session, and I look forward to seeing you then. And to close out this session, we're going to play again the opening theme what was at the beginning, in case you missed it. Thank you, Lachlan. Goodbye, everyone. See you soon. Welcome, anyone and everyone. I do have an invitation from Dawn and the Nova Hub team